Welcome to the final video of the nutrition module in the Achieve Your Ideal Physique program. So we've talked about protein, we've talked about carbohydrates, and the last one that we're going to be talking about is fats. Now, fats get a bad rep right off the bat. People say, I'm going to cut my fats, I'm going to lose fat. It doesn't work that way. This is, in a nutshell, how everything works. If your fat stores are too low, then your body starts to store fat on the inside. Fat, in its scientific term, is a lipid, and your body needs the lipids to be able to, A, keep your testosterone high, which allows easier fat loss and more muscle growth. When your body has too low of testosterone, it's going to struggle to build muscle. It's also going to struggle to lose fat. The more testosterone you have, the easier it's going to be for your body to do these two things. So making sure you have enough fats in your diet is going to allow your hormones to start to be optimized. As your hormones are optimized, it becomes a lot easier to A, build muscle and shred fat, but B, not have as many cravings, because fats are also very nutrient dense. So what does that mean, nutrient dense? What that means is for every gram of protein that you eat, you get 4 calories. For every gram of carbohydrate you eat, you also get 4 calories. But the thing is, with fats, you get 9 calories per gram of fat. So that is over double, which means that if you eat 10 grams of fat, that's 90 calories. So that could be something that makes it difficult to make sure you don't overeat. But if you remember in previous videos, you want to make sure that your fat and your carbs are not too high, because when your fat is too high and when your carbs are too high, it's challenging because A, carbohydrates are going to lead to dysregulation of your blood sugar and make cravings a lot higher, and you want to diminish those cravings. They're also not going to have as many nutrients as the protein. And the other side of the coin is if you have high carbs and high fats, the high fats are going to be super caloric dense, which means that you get a lot more calories than you actually need. Now, I know a lot of you guys in here are trying to build muscle, like we've discussed in previous videos, but when it comes to fats, if your fats are too low, it's going to be very, very tough to have your hormones optimized and actually get the physique that you want. So what do you need when it comes to fats? Well, you need a healthy balance of fats that come from plants and fats that come from animals. You've probably heard all of these following words at some point in your life: polyunsaturated, monounsaturated, blah, 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 blah. You've heard all these, right? Now, not to get super scientific, but poly means many and mono means one. So the prefix before the saturated or unsaturated, really what that means is that one classification of the fats is going to have many different fats attached. The other one's going to have just one, and it just basically determines how your body breaks it down. That's not important. What's important is knowing what types of fats and where they come from. Right? So ideally, you want to choose a nice healthy balance between fats from animals and fats from plants. If you're a vegetarian, then obviously you're not going to get the fats from the animals, right? If you're a carnivore, you're only going to get the fats from the animal, not from the plants. But in an ideal setting, you need enough fats in the proper balance, because if you have too high of one, too low of the other, you're not in a good spot. If you have vice versa, you're not in a good spot. You want a nice healthy balance so that your fat stores are sufficient, but also so that your hormones are optimized. So plant fats and animal fats, ideally, if you are somebody that does not fall into the vegetarian or the vegan or the carnivore subsect, then your best bet is to eat a combination of the two, right? Now, how do we do this without getting all analytical, scientific? Just go for a nice healthy balance between plants and animals. So your plant fats are going to be things like avocado oil, coconut oil, olive oil, all which come from plants. That's on the plant side, And when it comes to animals, you could find something like eggs. The yolk have plenty of healthy fats that comes from an animal, right? Fish, typically higher fat, so that could be sardines, salmon. The fattier fish is going to provide you a lot of those healthy animal fats. Another example on the animal side is going to be, beef, fattier turkey, ham, chicken. Chicken typically has lower fat, but if you go to something like a chicken thigh rather than a chicken breast, it's going to be a fattier part. And so I hope that gives you a brief overview. You don't need to overcomplicate these things. You just need a healthy balance of plant fats and animal fats, and that's going to allow your hormones to start to be optimized, so your testosterone is increased, and you can actually build muscle and drop fat a lot easier. And when you have enough fats in your diet, you do not now have to retain as many fats. What happens is your body is storing fat on the inside to make sure that, as a worst case scenario, the hormones still work, because again, the hormones are not just important for building muscle and shredding fat, but also for optimal health and to make sure you stay alive. So that's just how these things work. If your fats are too low, then your hormones start to shut down and your body is in this fearful state where it doesn't know how much longer it has to live. So that's why low fat is not going to work. It might work short term, but it's never going to work the long term. And I don't recommend you do it at all. I recommend you have proper healthy fats in your diet. So other things that are going to be great options, could be things like peanuts, cashews, peanut butter, nut butter of some sort, right? Regular butter that comes from dairy, yogurt that has fat in there. All these things, depending on what side of the spectrum you're on, if you're eating more plants, more animals, or ideally you're eating a mix of both, then that's going to be your answer. And then also making sure that the fats you're eating are not just to hit the numbers in the macros. You want it to be a source that responds well with your body. So if you don't tolerate dairy very well, then I don't recommend you eat butter or whole fat yogurt. You're probably not going to feel great. But if you do feel okay, then have those options. If you don't, to go more with the eggs, the olive oils, the fish, all these sorts of things, right? Now, the main reason that fast food kills a lot of people, and when I say kills, what I mean is it puts them over the edge, they start gaining weight, is not because the food themselves is that bad. The French fries at a fast food place, French fry at a brewery is not going to hurt you. What's going to hurt you is all the oils they're putting in there, which are excess calories, and they're very inflammatory. So that means your body is not only going to have more fat being stored up, more fat being deposited into your body, but also you're going to be super inflammatory. And inflammatory is not just, a lot of people, I think, when they think of inflammatory, they think of my skin breaking out. It's not just that, it's also fat. So if you have too much of this inflammatory food, your body is not going to be able to relax and chill out and actually drop this weight. It's going to store more weight, more fat, and you're not going to have the look that you desire. So I hope that gives you guys a nice overview of what to do when it comes to fats. Now, again, the equation is protein plus fats plus carbohydrates equals calories, right? Or you could put it the opposite way. Calories is broken down into fats, carbs, and proteins. So many people overcomplicate these things. And now that you know all these things, you know, I hope at least, and if you don't, then please rewatch the videos before moving on. I hope you understand now that it's not just calories in versus calories out. It works sometimes for fat loss, but it doesn't work long-term and doesn't work sustainably. Building muscle, it also isn't that simple, because you can't just add more calories and expect to gain weight. It's only going to work for the short term. But if your hormones are not optimized, then you're basically just putting a band-aid on the issue. And if your hormones are not optimized and they're all over the place, and you're eating less food to try to lose weight or more food to gain muscle, it's going to work for a little bit of time. But what about when your testosterone is not at its peak? Well, it's going to still struggle to drop fat. It's going to struggle to build muscle. So now that you understand that, you've probably seen so many of my videos on my Instagram, on my YouTube, and on here about optimizing your metabolism. That's what it means, bro. This is the sauce right here. Now you know exactly what it means when somebody says optimize their metabolism. Optimize it so it's at its all-time peak. As you optimize your hormones, it's not just your testosterone increasing. You have testosterone, which is the hormone that's more prevalent in males. You also have estrogen, which is the hormone that's more prevalent in females. So what this means is, as your testosterone increases, your estrogen is also going to increase. That's not a bad thing, because again, with your hormones, you need a nice balance. Similar to how I mentioned with the fats, you don't want just one versus the other. It's not going to work the same, right? You need them to be fluidly working together if you want the results. And so if your testosterone increases, your estrogen also goes up with it. And you still have that gap, right? Where it's testosterone, estrogen, boom, right? On the flip side, females, as they optimize their hormones, you know, they're going to have estrogen here, a little bit less testosterone. As their estrogen improves and they're able to lose weight, get more of the look that they're after, and also just optimize their health, the testosterone is also going to increase. And this is why they're both going hand in hand. So understand that eating the proper amount of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats is going to allow your hormones to start to be optimized and get to the peak position that you want them to be if you want to achieve your ideal physique, which I'm assuming by the time you've made it through these videos, you're getting closer and closer to achieving your ideal physique, and I'm assuming that's why you're in this video in the first place. So that's a brief overview of fats, and it might be a little bit on the lengthier side compared to the protein and the carbs, but understand that fats are complex and they're not just this one size fits all. Now that you understand this, you're going to be able to optimize your hormones. One thing I just want to end with, that I've touched on already briefly, is when you have less fat on your body's a lot more receptive to actually building muscle mass. So that's great. You want lower body fat to be able to build more muscle, because if your fat stores are too high, then you're not going to be very receptive to actually pulling the nutrients from the food and deriving them into your bloodstream. And so it doesn't matter if you're eating the right amount of macros, because, bro, you still aren't receiving them, right? It's like these two polarizing magnets. You're basically at that point trying to force feed these nutrients into your bloodstream, and they're not compatible. So that's why macros in versus macros out, or calories in versus calorie out, will never work. Now, on the contrary, because you're burning more calories at rest when you have more muscle mass, that's going to help you burn more body fat. So now that you have an understanding over carbs, fats, and proteins, now you can look at calories in versus calories out, right? So now you have all three of these optimized. Now, when people say it's just calories in versus calories out, like I said, it's not just that. But when you get these three all checked out the box and your hormones are optimized, then if you're still not losing weight, yeah, bro, drop your calories, or maybe increase your calories because your body's not burning enough, right? And so when you give your body less and less food, it starts to shut down the metabolism and burn less. You conserve energy, and you want your body burning more calories, right? If your body is burning 1,000 calories and you're eating 1,500, well, you're going to be 500 calories over, right? That could be good for building muscle. It might also not be helpful, depending on your goal. If your goal is fat loss, you might want to be in a slight deficit. Now, on the flip side, if your calories are too low, not just is your body going to shut down the metabolism and burn less, but it's also not going to have enough nutrients to build the muscle that you want. So you need to know all of these things, and now you can plug and play with calories. So now you can start to subtract how many proteins you have. And this equation is what I want to let you guys off the video with. One final thing. I just briefly touched upon how many calories are in carbs, fats, and proteins. I want to leave you with this because now you should be able to understand this equation. So you have 4 calories for every single gram of carbohydrate and 4 calories for every single gram of protein. So that means that if you eat 100 grams of carbs, you're getting 400 calories in total. Assuming that it's just carbohydrates, there's no fats, there's no protein in that food source, right? And the flip side is true with the protein, right? So if you're eating, say, 100 grams of protein, at a bare minimum, you have at least 400 calories that you've just consumed. Not always are you going to be absorbing, digesting, and processing all these things, but that's at a bare minimum what you just consumed. Now, again, on the fat side, they are going to have more nutrient density per gram. So that means that 9 calories per gram of fat. If you're eating 100 grams of fat, that's 900 calories. So if you're eating 100 grams of carbs, 100 grams of protein and 100 grams of fat, you're getting 1,700 calories. And that's why you need to make sure that your protein is high to build muscle and to keep yourself satiated so your blood sugar stays nice and steady and you're not overeating and you're staying lean and you're building muscle. Protein, I think you guys all understand, protein is key to build muscle and to stay lean and lose fat. Protein is basically that first and most important variable. Get that one checked off. Once we've done that, look at carbs and fats. And so it's all preference from there. It's, do you want to have higher fats and lower carbs, or do you want to have higher carbs and lower fats? Or do you want to be a little bit more meticulous and have them somewhere around here where they're both kind of in that middle range? It all varies. Fortunately for you guys, you don't have to worry because I have your macros custom tailored to you, and I use a formula that is literally what I just laid out for you guys, right? It's that formula, protein plus carbs plus fats. And I factor in a lot of different metrics, your age, your weight, your experience in the gym, all these sorts of things, right? Your lifestyle, how many calories you burn. Some people actively burn more, some people burn less. Some people sit at a desk like this or a chair. Some people are up walking around all day, right? Like you're gonna burn a lot more calories than the person that's sitting in an office desk. So that's why these things are important. But now that you understand this, you just wanna make sure that fats aren't too high, while carbs are also too high. Because if they both are elevated, it's gonna be challenging because, again, carbs are not super nutrient dense. They're gonna make you probably wanna overeat. And fats are also gonna be super calorie dense. So it's gonna bring you likely over the edge, right? So now that you understand that, it's just staple down your protein. After you staple down your protein, you have that consistent. Look at where your carbs and fats are. Are you the type of person that likes to eat a lot of carbohydrates? Pasta, rice, potatoes. Okay, if you like to eat a lot of those, then just gradually make sure you don't do a ton of fats. And if you're on the flip side, right? Myself personally, I'm more on this side. Although I do at times hover back and forth. Sometimes I like a nice pasta dish, right? But for the most part, when it comes to fats, I prefer a higher fat diet and lower carbs. I just feel better. I find that, you know, without gluten, without a lot of the carbohydrate sources, I have less brain fog and I feel better personally. That's not always the case for everybody. Some people prefer the opposite. But for myself, I would rather have my eggs, my bacon, my Greek yogurt, right? Cheese. You guys know that I love my cheese. Back to the point though, like I have higher fats in my diet and higher protein. So as a byproduct, I don't have much room left in my appetite. I don't feel super hungry. My carbs naturally are lower. I also noticed that because of the brain fog that carbohydrates bring me personally, I try to just keep them on the lower side. Now, if you're somebody that likes to eat bread, you like to eat these things, that's great. Just make sure your fats are not too high. What I'll say is once you have your carbs on the lower side, you're going to be a lot more able to control your eating patterns. And so it's something that you could try, but again, it's not necessary. As long as your fats and your carbs are not both elevated, you have one or the other higher, and your protein's also up there to build muscle and track fat, you're in a good spot. So now you understand what calories mean, how they break down into protein, carbs, and fats. And that's the sauce, bro. So now you understand nutrition in a nutshell, specific to your goals. I'm going to talk briefly on alcohol, eating out, meal prep, and these sorts of things so that you guys have some more context as to how to actually apply these things. But that's pretty much it. So I'll see you guys in the next video.